know what, June, Laura just reminds me, we do have a quorum if you want to go ahead and call the roll then.
Okay.
Mary is here, I don't know.
Yes.
She's back very short.
Okay. Board Member Grossman.
I'm here.
Board Member Anderson.
Here.
Vice Chair Nye.
Here.
Board Member Whiting.
Here.
Chairman Skook.
Here.
You're here. Okay. And Board Member Bruni is absent. We do have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we move on to number 3. New business for review, comment, and or action. We'll go on to number A. Consideration of approving an amended intergovernment agreement with the town of Prescott Valley, Arizona. 2, among other things, authorize district payments necessary to implement the debtor's first amended plan of reorganization in the case number 315 BK 10356 MCW of the U.S. Bankruptcy Court of Arizona. Ivan?
Mr. Chairman, these first 2 items are similar to the actions taken by the Town Council. So this first one is, again, the approval of the amendment to the intergovernmental agreement now with the town, and making certain that all of the covenants that are required for the issuance of the bonds that will be considered here in just a little bit by the board are also made in that intergovernmental agreement. And I see that Council Member Mallory has arrived.
She arrived. Okay, great.
Board member, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. Forgive me.
Board member in this case.
Yeah. The board member has, I think, a different hairstyle.
We counted you present, Mary.
That's fine.
Okay, anyone got any questions, comments? Motions?
I was going to ask if the council did approve this, but I woke up, so it's okay.
Okay. You want to repeat your question?
No, I'm good.
Okay, this we've already discussed. And if anyone cares to make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Motion to approve an amended intergovernmental agreement with the town of Prescott Valley, Arizona, to, among other things, authorize district payments necessary to implement the debtor's first amended plan of reorganization in case number 315-BK-10356-MCW of the U.S. Bankruptcy Court of Arizona by electronic vote.
I'll second that.
Okay, June, we have the motion and a second. Would you set the vote?
And that passes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, June. Okay, we move on to B.
Wow.
Oh, boy. Ivan, this is your work. B is Ivan read it. Consideration of authorizing the chairman or in his absence the vice chairman to sign resolution number 19 to A, approve participation in and vote in favor of the debtor's first amended Chapter 11 plan of reorganization, jointly administered as case number 315 BK 10356 MCW, involving the Prescott Valley Event Center LLC, and filed June 13, 2017. You want to read B, Laura?
You get a good grade.
I get a good grade. Okay. We're going to B, formally adopt, approve, and ratify that certain analysis of Prescott Valley Convention, an event center, community value, dated June 20th, 2017. C, to conditionally withdraw and eschew any claim that might be filed against in bankruptcy case on behalf of the district. D, conditionally authorize legal counsel to consent to and approve plan confirmation order issued in relation to Chapter 11 plan. E, conditionally authorize the payment of $75,000 to J.A. Flats LLC.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. E is approve the collateral assignment.
Doesn't say that on here, but that's okay.
Okay. Is that?
It says on mine.
Oh,
I think you jumped the line.
Did I jump a line? E is conditionally authorize the payment of $75,000 to J.A. Flats. I don't know. Is that right? That's what my paper says.
Okay. No.
That's-
E is approve the collateral assignment of certain rights and remedies inuring from the amended intergovernmental agreement entered into July 20th, 2017 by and between the town of Prescott Valley, Arizona and the Entertainment Center Community Facilities District.
Okay, somebody must have given you a different document, but go ahead and read the rest of it.
Boy.
Good move, huh?
F, conditionally authorize payment of $75,000 to J.A. Flats LLC for the center liquor license. G, conditionally accept conveyance, transfer, and assignment of, and Title II, the acquired assets set forth in the Chapter 11 plan. H, conditionally authorize and direct staff to arrange for necessary insurance coverage for any of the acquired assets. I, conditionally accept assignment of that certain modified parking access agreement from Prescott Valley Event Center, LLC. And J, conditionally authorize the mayor and staff to execute all documents necessary to implement the Chapter 11 plan.
I don't know where you got that from, Ivan, but it sure isn't mine. Okay, are there any comments, Ivan?
Mr. Mayor, if I could just, or Mr. Chairman, if I could just point out that there are some minor differences. One is, of course, that you're accepting the assets now that are being acquired through the issuance of the bonds. You're actually authorizing the payment of the $75,000 for the liquor license. You're approving a collateral assignment, which is, and in fact that was approved by the board, the council as well, that protects the rights of the bond holders. There's also an authorization for spending money for insurance. And finally, there's the approval of a modified parking access agreement. You might remember that in order for us to have parking, the parking is not actually part of the center. It's owned by another party. And they have been leasing that to the center since 2006. And because they weren't actually making payments, that's one of the claims in the bankruptcy. And so we've entered into an amended plan or a modified plan for parking that will involve some payments to those who will own that parking currently. They'll transfer title with a reverter possibility in order to save on the property taxes and some other requirements that they have in order for the facility to have the parking that it needs.
Okay, are there any questions, comments, motions? Okay. Ready?
Motion to authorize the chairman, or in his absence, the vice chairman, to sign resolution number 19, taking action to approve and to have the district participate in bankruptcy plan related to the event center by electronic vote.
Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to second the motion.
Okay, we have the motion and a second. Would you set the vote, June?
And that passes, Chairman.
Thank you, June. Okay, we'll move on to C, and just to be sure, I'm going to have you read that one, Ivan.
Okay. All right. Larry doesn't think I do anything all day anyway, so I suppose I might as
Well,
well.
I won't comment.
Yeah, fine.
Bargain, huh?
So C is a public hearing with regard to the feasibility report for the issuance of $16 million principal amount of Entertainment Center Community Facilities District, Prescott Valley, Arizona, revenue bonds, Series 2017, and not to exceed $2 million principal amount of Entertainment Center Community Facilities District, Prescott Valley, Arizona, revenue bonds, second Series 2017, submitted July 10, 2017. And I'd like, if possible, I'd like to have Michael, these next items, you would normally as bond counsel be working through this public hearing process. Just want to explain again that in general we have to have public hearings whenever we issue bonds on the underlying documents, and then we go ahead and adopt those documents, and this is really Michael's world.
Okay, I'll declare the public hearing open. Michael, you are on.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as Ivan just succinctly summarized, The statute to issue community facilities district bonds requires that we have a feasibility report with respect to issuance of the bonds, and basically that feasibility report has to include certain information, what we plan to acquire in this case, which as you've heard stated a couple of times, is basically the real estate interests in the facility, the agreements that relate to operation of the facility, equipment, all those things are described in the feasibility report. We then have to say when we think that's going to happen, and we say in the report that we think that's going to happen as soon as we can close the bond issue simultaneously with the closing of the bond issue, which is dependent on how the bankruptcy proceedings go from this point. There's also a plan of finance, and as we discussed earlier, basically what we're doing is we are giving to the bankruptcy estate $16 million worth of bonds in exchange for the assets. So instead of a cash for bonds transaction like you'd normally do, you'd get cash and you'd spend the cash on whatever you needed to either build or acquire. Here we're giving the bonds directly to the bankruptcy estate in exchange for those assets. So that's one aspect of this feasibility report. In the same feasibility report, we then describe a bond issue that we hope to do shortly after the first bond issue, after you guys own the center, after the CFD owns the center. There's a desire to borrow approximately $2 million to make various improvements to the facility. So those things include improvements to the parking lots, acquisition of a basketball floor, a floor to be used for basketball practices and games, a lot of technological updates, audiovisual updates, some cameras and some other things, refurbishment of locker rooms and other facilities. So again, the feasibility report describes what those things are. We indicate in the feasibility report we expect to spend not to exceed $2 million for those purposes. We expect to be able to have the work all done within a year after we issue the bonds for that purpose, and that's all described in the report. So again, we believe the report satisfies the requirements of the statute in providing that list of things.
Good. Questions, anyone?
Well, I have one question.
I'm sorry, Mike?
Yeah, and that was, you mentioned there at the end that it'll be implemented within a year of the closing of the bonds. So that would be like October of 2018.
Yeah, and I might defer to the manager on this. I think that the hope is, from what I understand, to get the paving done before the weather gets bad if we are on the time frame we're on. Yeah. And again, all that's dependent on the bankruptcy, but I'll let Mr. Tarkowski.
Yeah.
Larry?
Mr. Whiting, most of those particular items will be done within 2 to 3 months of the closing of the deal. The biggest nut is paving a parking lot, but there are HVAC repairs, there are compressor repairs for ice making. There's a lot of deferred maintenance that this is going to catch up and put a spit polish on that facility, quite frankly. It's 10 years old, and it's going to bring it up to near new condition all the way around.
Great.
Good.
Thank you.
And all those things are listed in the feasibility report that you have a copy of, so I hope you had a chance to look at that.
Good. Hey, Mary?
Oh, no, sir.
Any other comments?
Mm-hmm. I'm glad we're doing spit and polish. It needs it.
And some, yeah.
Good.
Who spit? I wonder.
Any other comments, questions, commotions, motions, demotions, promotions?
Public hearing, you gotta close it.
That's right, the public hearing. Anyone from the public here to comment? Yes, you are up. Come on up. I'm sorry, you have to use the microphone.
Come on up, Alfie.
And for two reasons. One, so we can hear it. The other, so it goes over the TV.
It might be disjointed because I've
Use the microphone if you would.
Sorry, I've been listening to all this.
I'll have to pull it down, I think, quite a bit.
I don't really understand if the Fane signature.
Could you give us your name, first of all, for the record?
Oh, sorry, Alfie Ware.
There, good,
Yeah,
thank
sorry.
you.
Okay. If the parking lot is being transferred to the town of Prescott Valley, why are we paying all the maintenance fees and we're still paying them a usage fee? Why should we pay that if they're transferring all their interest there?
The annual fee that is paid to Fane Signature Group is essentially the purchase fee, and it's based on number of vehicles in it.
But you're purchasing this from the parking lot? The town of Prescott Valley is purchasing the parking area?
Yes, we need to have, with a building, we need to have parking. And so
Yeah,
we
exactly.
it is being transferred to us. We are paying a fee that is specified and attached to tickets. But there is a reverter in there. So, for example, if at the corner of the intersection of Glassford Hill Road and Florentine, if we are successful, we, meaning economic development of the town of Prescott Valley, and we get a convention hotel that sits there, it's very clearly stated in the agreement that if that entity that would end up at that corner, if it consumes 250 parking spots, for example, the Fain Signature Group or J.A. Flats needs to replace that 250 units that would be consumed. So we are flexible in that we want to continue to have economic development in our downtown area without losing parking spots.
Right, but so they will designate parking lots across the street to you, to the town of Prescott?
Those are
Not to you,
already
but
designated. This
they
would
are
be
designated
new
as well.
parking areas, and
Why
they
do we-
would have to be replaced in kind. In other words, an asphaltic parking lot with 250 spaces or whatever is consumed.
But it just seems like double dipping to me. We're buying it through the town.
Over the course of the years
Exactly.
through...
But why are they getting, maybe it's that wording, reversion interest. I don't understand that. I'm a bit stupid. I mean, I can't understand why we're paying them twice.
I don't know that I am understanding why you're thinking that's paying them twice.
Well, because
they're being
as smart as
paid.
you probably.
Well, they're being
We're
paid
paying
a
them
certain amount
twice,
every
Larry.
year towards. It's essentially paying for the right to use those parking areas. There's no upfront amount that's being paid. We are, in fact, going to improve it, pay to improve it.
Right.
But in terms of using it, there's just that annual payment that will be made for using it. We will hold title, meaning the CFD will hold title, but that reverter interest, they're allowed to take it back at any time. And if they do that, they have to give us some additional parking someplace else, but then they get to use that for their economic development purposes. So that's why
So we're in and not purchasing it then?
we're really not.
No.
Outright. Not outright.
Well, why are you saying we're going to purchase it and pay all the costs?
We're paying those payments yearly, $70,000 or $2.10 a ticket,
Right.
plus some of the other consideration, and you're paying that each year for being able to use those 1,000 parking spaces.
So we're just leasing it, we're not buying it?
Well, you could think of it that way.
But yeah, I mean, that's plain and simple.
You could think of it that way, but
without
there
all
will
this
be.
illegal stuff, okay, so if they decide to build a hotel there, are they going to reimburse us for the money we've spent leasing it? Plus the ticket amount?
No,
full
but they're
plus
going
interest?
to provide some additional parking elsewhere that we will then keep paying for, so that we always have 1,000 parking spaces a year.
Yeah, I don't agree with that, but, you know, I'm not a lawyer. But I think that's double dipping, really. You know, we're paying for it, and unless you say, we don't want, if we want extra parking, yeah, but it's got to be to the same value that we've invested.
Well, I don't know how much per acre foot. I'm sorry, acre foot.
Per acre.
Yeah.
How much per square foot you pay for property in the downtown. But we're obviously not paying the millions of dollars up front that it would cost to buy it. So
No, well,
essentially,
we are purchasing it.
but on a yearly basis.
Is it a lease to purchase? Is it a lease to purchase? Or are we ever going to, is the town of Prescott Valley ever going to own that parking lot?
And the answer is no.
No.
It will own it, but there will always be that reversionary interest.
Put it this way, we will always have 1,000 parking places.
So we're
And
not buying it
that's-
then. We're not buying. We're just leasing it.
You can think of it that way.
Well, yeah. But you're
And when it is
implying that we are paying them out of our taxpayers' money to purchase that, and now you're saying we're never going to own it. They can take it back at any time. It doesn't seem right to me. I can't figure that out.
We will always have 1,000 parking spots. Okay,
Right.
That's what you need with a building of that type. Okay, obviously. Okay, and so if that moves, but it's still adjacent to the facility, we have accomplished what we want. And we've accomplished what we need for the economic development of downtown. And quite frankly, we encourage development along the corridor of Glassford Hill and along.
Oh, well, sure, that's what we need.
Okay, that's exactly what we need. Okay, and so by having this ability to move that parking lot and have it replaced in kind. So if we put down 3 inches of asphalt on top of 12 inches of AB, that's what is needed in the replacement of this. That's how it works.
And who's going to pay for that? The Fane Signature Group?
Exactly. That's what the agreement calls for.
So basically, in my mind, we're just leasing it and giving it back to them if they want it. Okay. And just one more question. I haven't read this, and I've just come in at the latest part because I don't understand the bankruptcy. But here it looks as though there's 2 licenses involved, 2 liquor licenses involved. Is that correct?
No, just one.
It says here the liquor license from the new Fane entities, and down here it says another one from JA Flats. So that's is that the same one?
Alfie, we're buying one liquor license, having it transferred over from the present operators of the building, so that we now have ownership.
It's held by JA Flats, which is one of the entities that's in PVEC.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So JA Flats is the same as the new one of the new Fane entities.
It's only one liquor license. We're not going to compete with you.
Well, I won't sell you any booze. Okay, now, will that affect, are they going to operate liquor sales in there as well as the, are they going to take over the existing people in there?
Okay, let's not confuse operation of the building with ownership of the building. Okay, we have presently the Fane Signature Group, JA Flats, whichever entity, they have an agreement with Spectra out of Philadelphia to operate the building, which is presently in place, and they're managing the building today. With the ownership of the building going to the CFD, the liquor license needs to be transferred as well, and we have to pay for that luxury, as you're probably well aware.
Oh, yeah.
And so the operations contract will move over to the CFD and quite frankly, be enhanced with Spectra. The operation of the concessions on the inside, the scheduling of entertainment venues, perhaps seeking a second anchor tenant, that is all being handled by Spectra.
Okay. Will that affect the concessionaire? Who's there now?
I'm not going to insert myself in the middle of any negotiations that go on between Spectra and any of their vendors. That's their business. That's what they get paid for.
So you don't have any say in that? If we own the event center, if this bankruptcy goes through, and you own the, if Prescott Valley owns the event center,
certainly
we have a joint ownership with Spectra.
We're hiring.
I'm confused the way this is going.
We're hiring a company to run the arena. They are professionals in that field.
Exactly.
Okay. They operate over 140 venues across the nation and internationally.
Oh yeah, I know the history.
Okay.
Yeah.
They are very good at what they do, and so when they enter into advertising agreements, naming rights, any number of things that they will end up doing in the appropriate operation of that building, certainly we will be not only privy to, but in agreement with what they end up doing. But we are giving them a maximum amount of latitude to run it appropriately, supercharge the offerings that will be made available to this community that heretofore have not been there.
Okay. All right. Well, that's the only questions that come up right now, Larry. Yeah.
Thank you, Alfie.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Ware. Appreciate it.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Good job. Appreciate it.
I hope you guys understand what you voted on. Because
that's all right. This is a public hearing. You're entitled, and we appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for the time.
Good.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public care to comment? Any more legal advice or disadvice or whatever? Motion. If not, then we declare the hearing closed, and we'll move on to number D, another public hearing with regard to the possible adoption of the resolution to conditionally authorize the issuance of $16 million principal bond amount of the Entertainment Center Community Facilities District, Prescott Valley, Arizona, Revenue Bond Series 2017, based on a feasibility study that identifies the public structure of the project, the arena, or the areas benefited to be benefited, the expected method of financing, including the nature and timing of the issuance of bond, and the system of providing the revenues to operate and maintain the bond or project, and a plan of finance in order to implement district participation in the debtor's first amended Chapter 11 Plan of Reorganization in case number 315 BK 10356 MCW of the U.S. Bankruptcy Court of Arizona. I hope that matched what you had, Ivan. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, make this real quick. Beside the hearing on a feasibility report for each revenue bond issue, and that's what these bonds are, they're payable from revenues in the form of the payments, as Ivan described, under the intergovernmental agreement by the town to the Community Facilities District. That makes them revenue bonds. Statute requires we have a public hearing on the issuance of those revenue bonds, so that's the purpose for this hearing.
Good. Comments, questions, anyone?
Did we declare the public hearing open?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, public hearing we declared open. Anyone else care to comment from the public? Michael, you have the floor for the...
He said
You want to close the public hearing, Mr. Chairman, and then I think we can move to the next
if there's
item.
no comment, we'll close the public hearing, and we move on to number D. And that's strange. I don't have a D on here. You want to read it, Ivan?
I think we're on E
Should
now.
be an E. Yeah.
Okay. E, I'm sorry, E. Ivan, you want to read E just to make sure I got the right stuff?
Sure, you bet. Consideration of authorizing the chairman, or in his absence, the vice chairman, to sign resolution number 20 to authorize issuance of $16 million principal amount of Entertainment Center Community Facilities District, Prescott Valley, Arizona, Revenue Bonds Series 2017, based on a feasibility study that identifies the public infrastructure of the project, the areas benefited or to be benefited, the expected method of financing, including the nature and timing of the issuance of bonds, the system of providing revenues to operate and maintain the project, and a plan of finance in order to implement district participation in debtor's first amended Chapter 11 Plan of Reorganization in case number 315 BK 10356 MCW of the U.S. Bankruptcy Court of Arizona. Said resolution shall further provide for disposition of the bonds and for payment of principal of and interest thereon, and on bonds incurred on a parity therewith. It shall further approve the form and authorize the execution and delivery of a bond paying agent and registrar agreement with a bank appointed as provided therein, and a voluntary continuing disclosure undertaking.
Good. Okay. Who's commenting on that? You, Evan, or Mike?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, we're getting to the exciting stuff now, so it's this is the good stuff. This is the actual authorization by the district board to issue the bonds. So this is the direction by the district board to issue $16 million worth of bonds. It provides for the payment structure of the bonds, the pledge of the payments under the intergovernmental agreement to secure payment of the bonds. It allows issuance of additional bonds that are payable from the same source under certain circumstances. It also provides for how the bonds can be transferred. So if I own a bond and I want to transfer it by sale to somebody else, the document provides for that, and that's why we're approving a bond registrar and paying agent agreement. So there's a bank that will provide that facility so that if I want to sell my bond, I go through the means that bank provides to have that done. There's also what we call a continuing disclosure undertaking. In this case, unlike others you've had to do that have been compulsory, this one's going to be voluntary, and basically it comes at the request of the current majority bondholder, the entity that Larry described earlier, Lapis. Lapis has asked that they be provided, and the other bondholders, the other 300 or so bondholders, be provided information on an annual basis. They want to know, rightfully so, what your financial statements look like for the prior year, history on collection of sales taxes. These are all things that Mr. Copey and his department will handle on an annual basis just by providing those reports. It provides all the other things that we need to do a conventional bond issue and authorize the execution of all the necessary documents.
Good. Questions, comments, motions? Okay.
Motion to authorize the chairman or in his absence the vice chairman to sign resolution number 20 approving issuance of 16 film in series 2017 revenue bonds by electronic vote.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second the motion.
We have the motion and a second. Would you set the vote, June?
Oops, just one moment. And that passes, Chairman.
Thank you, June. Okay, we're going to F. Ivan, you want to read that one too?
Okay. Public hearing with regard to possible adoption of a resolution to conditionally authorize issuance of $2 million principal amount of Entertainment Center Community Facilities District, Prescott Valley, Arizona, revenue bonds, second series 2017, based on a feasibility study that identifies the public infrastructure of the project, the areas benefited or to be benefited, the expected method of financing, including the nature and timing of the issuance of bonds.
Good. Thank you. With that, I declare the public hearing open. Mike, you have any comments?
Just quickly again, Mayor and Council, or sorry, Board, Mr. Chairman, members of the Board, like the other hearing we had for revenue bonds, same thing with this. This is the smaller bond issue. As quickly as possible after we issue the bonds to put into the bankruptcy estate to get the assets, we hope to quickly issue this other series of bonds to do the spit and polish that Larry mentioned earlier, and this is the required hearing to be able to issue those bonds.
Good. Any questions, anyone? Public care to make any comments on this?
Oh, yes, it is.
Anything else, Mike?
No, Mr. Chairman.
If there's no comment on it, then I would declare the public hearing closed, and we'll move on to number G. You want to read that one too, Ivan?
You bet. Consideration of authorizing the chairman or, in his absence, the vice chairman to sign resolution number 21 to conditionally authorize issuance of $2 million principal amount of Entertainment Center Community Facilities District, Prescott Valley, Arizona, revenue bonds, second series 2017, based on a feasibility study that identifies the public infrastructure of the project, the areas benefited or to be benefited, the expected method of financing, including the nature and timing of the issuance of bonds, the system of providing revenues to operate and maintain the project. Said resolution shall further provide for disposition of the bonds and for payment of principal of and interest thereon. It shall further approve the form and authorize the execution and delivery of a placement agent agreement with Stiefel Nichols Incorporated.
Thank you, Ivan.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Board, this is the necessary authorizing resolution for issuance of the $2 million bond issue. It's a shorter resolution because it basically amends the resolution that you just adopted for the larger bond issue. It provides for the bonds, the bonds that are subject to this resolution to be issued as additional bonds under that prior resolution. We refer to that prior resolution as the master resolution, and this is the first series of bonds after the primary bonds are issued under the master resolution. It provides for the authorization of all the necessary documents, including the placement agent agreement with Mr. Casillas' firm, and then the authorization and execution and delivery of all necessary documents to finalize the transaction.
Questions, anyone? Comments? Anything else?
I'll make a motion.
Motion? I think we're ready.
I'll make a motion to authorize the chairman, or in his absence, the vice chairman, to sign resolution number 21, approving issuance of $2 million in second series 2017 revenue bonds by electronic vote.
We have the motion. A second, anyone?
Mr. Chair, I'll second the motion.
We have the motion and a second. Would you set the vote, June?
And that passes, Chairman.
That passes. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just reiterate, the manager whispered in my ear a little while ago, just to remind everyone that all of these actions that we've taken, of course, have been contingent actions based on the hope that we're going to see the bankruptcy process go forward and be successful, and that there will be a confirmation order by the bankruptcy court and an effective date for that bankruptcy. I believe we are going to be the first that have, in terms of creditors under the bankruptcy process, that will have had an opportunity to vote, and we've now voted in favor of the plan, so we'll be some of the first to recommend approving the plan. And just to put a point on things, I wonder if we might ask Mr. Parker just to finish up for us and just, again, tell us about the procedure that we'll follow and what our actions today have resulted in.
At this point, the voting is underway, and we will now be able to submit our formal vote with your approval. Thank you. The voting, the ballots are to be returned by August 23rd. At that point, the debtors, PVEC, will put together a ballot report and let the court know what the results were on a class-by-class basis, and therefore whether the plan is in a position to be confirmed or whether we will have to institute the cram-down process. There will be the hearing on September 6th, which is technically a preliminary hearing on plan confirmation, but if all goes well, that could result in the confirmation by the court that day from the bench. If there is an objecting party, and I guess I should stress that as well, in addition to the voting on the plan, there is the possibility of parties filing legal objections to the plan based on legal grounds. There, too, we don't expect we have no way of knowing for sure, but we have no reason to believe there will be any of those other than perhaps the underwriter, though we're not sure what legal basis they would have to object. In any event, that will all be considered by the court at the hearing on September 6th. If she sees that there are issues that she as the judge needs to deal with or that require actual presentation of evidence at a further hearing, she may need to set that, though she has already indicated the understanding of the interest in all the parties in moving forward quickly and in providing a hearing for us quickly if that is necessary. Our hope is that it won't be necessary, that she'll be in a position to rule that day. In that case, the lawyers go to work behind the scenes to finalize an order for her based on whatever may have come out in the hearing, a formal order confirming the plan. Once that order is signed by her and entered on the court docket, any parties who may have objected to the plan will have, well, for that matter, any parties who have a right to appeal will have 14 days to do so. And so the effective date of the plan, which is when all this actually starts to happen in terms of putting it all into place, by its definition cannot occur before that a 15-day period has passed in order for people to have their appellate rights. The definition is actually a little more complicated, but that's the soonest it could be after the hearing takes place. So there are various other possibilities depending on how far any unaccepting or objecting class wants to take things. There's the possibility of additional hearings to resolve it. Again, given the level of support here, we are hoping that it will not come to that and that any objections that exist can be resolved quickly. Are there any questions about that process?
Mary?
I really just wanted to make a comment in the sense that there is no doubt this is an extremely complicated situation, and all of you, for the last couple of years, have done a tremendous amount of work, and I truly appreciate that. Going forward, our hope and our dream for all that we're doing here tonight is that we bring the event center back into the limelight like it was when we first brought it in, and it can be done. And, the community loves that event center, and they loved all the hockey, and they loved everything. There's a lot of people over there that have jobs. They put a lot of their life into it, and they live and they play in this community. So the whole perception here is the fact that we would rebuild that downtown area and bring it lively the way it was several years back. And that's really the bottom line to all of this, is that we don't want the building to just stand there and rot away. And there's a lot to be said for what's going on, and there's a lot of hope, and I believe that going forward with this, that we will be successful, and it will be filled with lots of good times. So thank you.
Thank you, and I will point out in response to that, that is exactly the sentiment that we have been relaying to the judge at every opportunity possible, both we and the debtor for that matter. And it's one of the reasons it is not typical for a judge to allow a Chapter 11 case to go this long before a plan is presented. But she understands fully, one, how complicated it has been, two, how many parties have been involved in needing to be part of the process, and as a result, and understanding the importance of this to everyone here, and for that matter, to all of Northern Arizona. She, the judge, has been extremely helpful, which is, she still has her duty as a judge to make the right legal rulings, but in terms of enabling us to move forward with this and have the time to deal with all the complexities, it is exactly that reason, I think, that you just stated that has been helping to motivate her to do that.
Well, I look forward to a good outcome with all this, and that we would move forward in a positive way and start just, doing the things needed and just bringing the life back. Thank you.
That is certainly our goal. Thank you.
Good, thank you, Mr. Parker. And I also want to thank Mike and Bob and all of you that put the work into it. I think that this is going to come out to be a real good thing for us. It's not just the center itself, but it's also the business that benefits from it, so it should be good. Okay, we have one more issue that I know everybody hates, and that's adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Would you set the vote, June?
That passes.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much. We have one more meeting to go through, a work study. And you